52. Now, it is a year since you went into a coma.
It is, yeah.
Which is an extraordinary thing to even say.
Dramatic statement.
Now, you had pneumonia, didn't you? You were on a flight. I know we've got a sort of recap of the story, but just in that break, I just want to share with you something. If you had 4 minutes until you knew you were going to be put into an induced coma...
That was the warning I had,
Who would you get in touch with?
Your dad, maybe?
Your parents, maybe? Your wife?
Or Soho House and Fortnum and Mason.
Yeah, because that's what Richard did. If you've ever wondered what sort of a social butterfly Richard is, why did you get in touch with Soho House, Richard?
I was due at a festival they were running and I wanted to let them know I wasn't going to make it. And then I was supposed to be at dinner at Fortnum's the following day with the chief executive.
It's just good manners,
yeah.
It's good manners.
Considerate of you to cancel your social occasion.
You didn't think it might be a good idea to let your dad know that you might not make it?
Well, I mean, I think with hindsight, Susanna, but in these moments, we don't make the most rational decisions.
No, indeed.
Rational by my standards.
The reason we're talking about this, of course, the anniversary since Richard was put into the coma and your life saved by some extraordinary people.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. And 2 of the people are here from Lewisham Hospital that saved my life. But first, here is a recap of what happened to me. Last July, I was on a flight from Los Angeles to London when I started to feel really unwell. When I landed, I couldn't breathe properly, and I stupidly thought a session at the gym would help. It didn't. 18 hours later, I walked into Lewisham Hospital, unaware that I was very close to death. The team there quickly diagnosed what was wrong. The pressurized cabin on the flight had made the infection in both my lungs much worse. I needed to be put into a medically induced coma and fast. I stayed in that coma for 9 days so that my body could fight the infection. My wife, Rebecca, the mother of my 2 kids, Arthur and Ivy, was unaware whether I would pull through. There was one point where they had the crash equipment hovering over me. My body turned blue, and they expected that there was a moment when they believed I was going to die. That I survived is testament to the skill of the NHS staff at Lewisham Hospital. 2 weeks later, I was back home with my family, learning to walk all over again and alive, thanks to the NHS. There you go.
And 2 of that team, consultant anaesthetist Mick Jennings and critical care matron Martine Rooney, are here. Well, very good morning to you.
Well, lovely to see you. It's really moving, actually, to sort of see that in context and see those pictures again and then to see you 2 again. Because you were there when that happened and you really did. It's not overstating this at all. You know, my kids have a father because of you.
Yeah, I mean, our team helped you like we help a lot of other people as well. And it's really nice for us too to see you looking really well.
Yeah, thank you. So I've got a bit of a cold this week. My voice has gone a bit, but there's not some lingering after effects of what happened.
When we talk about the fact that Richard could have died, I mean, Mick, how serious is that? When he was put into that induced coma, what did you actually think might happen to him?
Well, yes, I mean, his blood oxygen levels were extremely low. The only way that my colleague Vic, who was the consultant looking after you at the time, thought you were going to survive would be if we did the breathing for you on the ventilator.
And what would have been, if you hadn't put him into a coma, what would have been the outcome, do you think?
Yeah, you would have died.
Right, and explain that. Why would I have died if I hadn't been in a coma?
So you get to a point where the effort that you are making to breathe is putting a huge amount of strain on the rest of your body as well. You're unable to get enough oxygen in and clear enough carbon dioxide to keep your vital organ systems going. So the ventilator helps to do that, and it unloads the effort that you're making as well.
It was an amazing experience, Martine, going into Lewisham Hospital and just seeing how the staff work there. When I got to the front desk and said I was short of breath, they took it very, very seriously, and I wasn't taking it seriously, which was stupid of me. But actually, it's a very serious thing to be short of breath, isn't it? And then your team jumped immediately into action.
Well, it's very frightening, isn't it, when you can't breathe? You start to panic and everything just gets bigger and bigger and it gets more of an emergency situation.
But what's interesting is that Rich wasn't in that state. He probably didn't realise quite how serious it was. And what's brilliant is that staff obviously immediately realised it was probably 10 times more serious than Richard.
They recognised the signs.
That's the thing, isn't it? You're able to recognise those signs.
And it obviously gave me this huge appreciation for the NHS. And I know you don't want to be political as staff members of the NHS, but that is a hospital that Jeremy Hunt, as Health Secretary, tried to close down, and it survived on appeal. They wanted to, at one point they proposed closing A&E and ICU, and had that happen, Vic said to me, I was too ill to move, the next nearest hospital. Had that not existed, Lewisham, then I would definitely have died, and obviously there would have been many other people would have died, because when you're really ill, you can't get to the next one, right?
Yeah, I think when you were at Lewisham, you needed to be in the intensive care unit at Lewisham. And if the service had been downgraded in the A&E and in maternity, as was the plan, then the critical care unit that exists at Lewisham wouldn't have existed in the way that it does.
There you go.
Martine, when Richard was in a coma for 9 days, tell us what happens. You know, how do you look after him? What are you
Do you
doing?
talk to me?
Yes, all the time.
Did you? What about?
Just general everyday things that are going on, that your family are here, what's been going on outside in the outside world.
Okay.
Sometimes
Not Trump.
No.
Good.
Just trying to be reassuring and telling you everything that we're doing before we do it, to say who's here, what's going on in the outside world.
They brush your teeth when you're in, and there was a nurse
Yeah.
who played music to me, and afterwards he said, I used to listen to you on the radio, and I know that you like Pulp, and it was kind of charming the way they care for you, knowing that you can't hear or receive any of this.
Yeah, I think the nursing staff in our unit are just fantastic. I mean, every time you go into a patient bed area, we go around to do a ward round, and you'll go into the bed area, and quite often you may surprise someone who's in there, and they're generally, you know, you can see that they're really caring for the patient.
Well, it's so nice to see you today. By the way, when I did get to that front desk short of breath, one thing they said to me was, we're just saying we haven't got our full complement of doctors here today. And I was like, oh, right, typical NHS underfunding. And they said, no, one of our doctors is Dr. Alex, and he's on Love Island. I already wasn't that keen on the thing.
Richard has a really interesting story about because you knew nothing about it, of course, apart from that 4-minute warding.
Yeah.
But when you came round, you describe it as the worst day of your life.
The worst day by a long way.
I thought it was just the bit before going into the coma that was the worst.
That was terrifying, and it was terrifying for my wife, and we did call relatives in those 4 minutes as well, and she started crying. I've almost never seen her cry. That was terrifying, but coming out, they pumped you full of so many different things, and they didn't really know what was wrong with me, so I had a cocktail of so many different drugs, and it was the hallucinations, and I remember thinking that a nurse had tried to kill me.
Not Martine.
Not Martine.
No, definitely not.
To be clear, Martine didn't try and kill me.
Just to point out, none of the nurses.
None of the nurses.
Richard.
But actually, I'd made a complaint afterwards, and actually the reality is, it's common when people come out of a coma to think that someone's trying to kill them, because you go into this deep, horrible, paranoid state.
Yeah.
And that was why. No one prepares you. There's no way to prepare someone for how awful it is when you come out of a coma.
But you must be used to that, but also have to prepare for it, because presumably patients can get quite physical as well in that moment.
They're frightened, and there is that survival mode. They're absolutely petrified. They can't remember anything that's happened to them. The last thing you can probably remember is walking into the hospital, and you're waking in an unfamiliar environment. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of equipment up there.
Do they kick out, hit out?
I did. I actually got violent, didn't I? They actually put me in a second coma. Because you kick out and you don't know what's going on and you still can't breathe properly. It was absolutely awful. But to end on a much more positive note is, you know, you've seen a photo of my wife there, and you've seen photos of my kids, who I think are watching this programme this morning, who came to see me at the end, Arthur and Ivy. And there they are. We didn't let them come into the hospital until all the pipes had been removed. There's a tracheotomy plaster. But, you know, it is true that Rebecca has a husband and my kids have a father because of the work that you did. That was exactly a year ago. It's really wonderful and moving for me to see you here today. And I know it seems like such a sort of futile statement, but I'm going to say it anyway, which is, thank you for saving my life.
You're very, very
welcome. You look great. You look absolutely fantastic.
Are there any concerns about his voice, the fact he's got a cough?
And it's patients often get that situation where they're worried afterwards, but no, and you have every right and reason to expect to live forever.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
I love that. By the way, when I said to Vic in the hospital as I left, thank you for saving my life, this is the NHS, he went, oh, no need to thank me.
No, every day.
all right.
It's an everyday miracle,
right,
isn't it, at the NHS? And
Martine
thank
and Mick,
goodness
thank
for
you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Because honestly, who would have filled in for Piers Morgan if you hadn't been here?
I mean, that would have
So,
been...
you know, our rota manager is particularly great.
would have been the real legacy, wouldn't it,
Yeah,
of what
I know,
happened? You know,
exactly.
it's unthinkable.
Be a big gap.
Unthinkable.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you very
And,
much.
you know, congratulations on all the great work that you do.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
We are all thankful for what you do every day.
I look forward to staying in touch with you as well. Thanks, guys.
I thought you were going to say, I look forward to coming back in.
Not that.
Don't want to do that.
No. Laura has the weather live from Wimbledon.